So, before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. How exactly do I do that, and what does that mean? Well, what I've been learning and what I want to share with you today is just some very simple instructions that has worked for me on how to look at myself. There's also a website that's actually called justonlook.org that I highly recommend. It's by John Sherman. So you might want to take a look at that. He has some simple instructions as well. But I'm going to get a little into depth about what it is that I've learned that he's actually talking about and how I've come to build that skill through A Course in Miracles and many other spiritual teachers to come to the understanding of how to do that and to tell myself the truth and live in that truth and create that space for peace to be able to be my experience because, well, quite honestly, it's not, right? So how does that happen? How am I not at peace? Okay, so this is the way where all discomfort or emotional suffering is simply a commentary argument of what is made by the mind, right? So if you've heard my last podcast, which was The Power of Observation, that would be very helpful to listen to before you come to this one. But the way I think about it is that it's a mental addiction, right? This commentary that happens about this should not be, right? I don't like this. I don't want this, whatever, is a fundamental argument with life, your own life. So as with any addict, I have to go through that pain and suffering as part of that healing process, right? So do I want to suffer? No. Is suffering happening in my experience? Yes. Right. So what should I do is the question that the mind will ask, right? So what I'm beginning to understand is that tendency to do something is the egotistic snare that has its grip on us. Another argument with what is to keep us from the peace that could be if I choose it, which it says in lesson 34 of A Course in Miracles, I could choose peace instead of this, right? But am I doing that? No, right? I'm arguing with the peace that could be here, right? But I can choose again. So how do I do that? Well, I have to look at what the mind's doing, right? What is my agreement or disagreement with what's actually happening? Or is it, or what I also have to do is look at the thought and, which if you look at a lot of the Course in Miracles lesson in the lesson book, it's always asking us to close our eyes or with our eyes open to look around the room, right? So I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Take a moment, right? Notice the argument or the disagreement that you're having with what's actually happening or the thought that you're having. And you can look around the room and see, is what I'm thinking about actually happening right now? Or is it a thought about the future or the past? What's actually happening right now in this moment? And by doing that, you're telling yourself the truth, right? You're being honest about, you're returning to the truth instead of an imagined scenario that you're creating, right? Which is an image in your mind. That's the dream that A Course in Miracles talks about. My mind has drifted off into something that I'm creating in my mind to stress. And it's a fundamental psychological structure that pulls us away from this moment, right? Because if you really look at how the ego works, I love the way Paul Hederman, if you've ever heard of Paul Hederman, I love the way he puts it. The ego's basic structure is I was there, I will be there, so therefore I am here. So we always think that we're present, but if you begin to look at what's actually happening in your mind, it's very rare that we're actually truly present in this moment at any given moment. And what I also like to talk about is when you go to sleep, right? Where do all the problems go? Where does the world go, right? Where's all my friends and families and my job and my thoughts, and all that's gone, which is why it's called rest. How amazing is that I have no problems when I'm sleeping, and why a lot of people, as an escape mechanism, will go to sleep, right, to avoid stress. So if you listen to a lot of the teachers, like Ganjaji and Muji and those people that I've mentioned before, all those G people, they're always talking about this present moment. Be here now. And because the ego says I am here now because I was there, I will be here, there, therefore I am here, we think we are here. But that's not usually the case. And we have to learn how to bust ourselves at not being present. So we have to look at our mind and our thoughts and go, with any happy or disempowering thought, right? An empowering thought or a disempowering thought, because both, right, used by the ego will cause us not to be present, right? Because we're wanting something that's not here right now. So, again, just take a moment and look and see what's actually happening in this moment, and see if there's a conflict with what's going on right now compared to what your mind is telling you. And see if there's any contrast right there, because that's the basic conflict, to keep your life in this moment at arm's length so that you don't have to experience it. Another way to put this would be, well, what we're being shown by doing that and taught in those moments of, I want peace, but it's not here. That's the invitation, right? That's the invitation, because what we're being taught in those moments is the art of allowing. So for me, I use that power of observation to look at what's actually happening, so I can ask for what I want and receive it because I asked, right? That's the invitation to heal, an invitation to self-inquiry. And a call to return to love, which is a great book, by the way. If you've never read it, quite honestly, I've never read it. It's definitely on my list. So again, take the moment as it is, and how am I arguing with what is? And then, as David Hoffmeister puts it, reverse, right? But again, we have to. It's slippery, right? Because the ego is a tricky little bugger. So when the ego hears the reverse, right, the mental habit hears the reversal as an avoidance mechanism, right? I need to get the hell out of here. Or in other words, the fight or flight mechanism has been activated. So again, it's fear that you're experiencing. So tell it the truth. What's happening right now in this moment? Is fear a necessary response to what's happening? Am I really being attacked? By whom? Or by what? Is it my own mind attacking itself? Is that what's happening? And if you can see that that's happening, I guarantee you peace will return. And you'll laugh at yourself because it's hilarious. It's amazing how well that works. So give that a try and see what happens, because it's been very helpful to me. That's been very helpful to me to catch myself, or even if I miss a exit. As if you've listened to me before, I'm a truck driver, so I'll catch myself a lot of times thinking wonderful thoughts, right, about having a conversation like this and how bad I want to have it, and la da 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 da. And next thing I know, I'm so wrapped up in that story, feeling good about how much I know or whatever, how well I understand this, and how I'm practicing in my mind, teaching what I'm learning and sharing it with somebody that's not here, right? And next thing I know, I've missed my exit. I wasn't present. I was not here now. I was here now only in my thoughts, in my imagination. That's where I actually was, right? In a dream world, thinking about what's not happening. So, just observe your mind as you're doing that. Listen to my prior podcast. Hopefully that's helpful to you. Feel free to leave any comments, questions that you have, and let's work on this together, because we all need to heal the insanity. Definitely. And remember to have joy and laughter at the foolishness that our mind plays on us, the trick, the mind, that illusory trick that we call reality, but really isn't. And that's how you find it. That's how you find what's true. It really is simple, but the ego loves complexity, right? So let's make it simple and return to simplicity, return to love, return to peace. I wish that for you. So for me to be able to have it, I have to teach it. I have to give it, because that reinforces the idea in myself. So love you, man. Peace, love. Have a great day. Bye.